Viewer from Richfield wants to talk about taxes. His viewer is a retired veteran, wants to know whether or not the legislature is going to repeal the law that taxes retirement benefits. We've had this question in past years. This question has come up, the issue about taxing service people benefits. Is that on the table, or is there any discussion about that?
I think Representative Bob Detmer has that bill again this year to attempt to do that. It's been around before, and the argument is, sure, you're not going to tax their retirement, but they're going to move to Minnesota. They're going to live here. They're young. They're going to start another career. They're going to earn a living. They're going to pay more taxes. It's a positive for the state. That's the kind of the presentation that Bob makes, so that it's not just doing something that doesn't help the state, like when you cut the tax, but it's a positive because they will pay more taxes and bring a family here, and it's a win-win for everybody. Other states are doing it, and so I think I've actually signed on as a co-author of that, but I think it makes sense that we ought to be looking at doing that instead of I've retired. I have some retired friends that are from military, and some are still here because there's other things that bring them here besides that. But I think it would be a real positive thing for the state of Minnesota to be a real friendly place for those retired military.
Anybody know the status of that discussion?
Well, as legislation has been introduced, it's a little hard to predict what may happen this legislative session. In addition to what's already passed, if something is done on that regard, the probability is stronger than it would have been in past years, simply because revenue is much stronger for the state of Minnesota. And that would be an answer for any number of very worthy causes that might come forward in terms of tax questions. The House has already put a major bill through that's now before the Senate dealing with tax policy changes that will provide a lot of additional revenue for families across the state of Minnesota. I'm talking about federal conformity, which will provide roughly $200 million in tax relief. And that has a variety of components that helps a whole lot of taxpayers. So to date, that's been the main thrust on the House side.
And I think to be fair to the questioner, this year that will probably not happen. But as Representative Carlson just pointed out, the House passed their omnibus tax bill last week, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, the representatives can correct me, I think it was, if not a unanimous vote, it was very close to a unanimous vote on the House floor.
Two negatives.
Two negatives. How often do you see that with a tax bill? Never. So obviously there was wide support for that bill, which provides well over, $500 million, I believe, in tax reductions. But the important thing to remember, and I would defer to Representative Carlson as the historian among the group of us, when the constitutional amendment was put on the ballot in, the early 70s, relative to annual sessions of the legislature, the intent was that the even-numbered year, this year, would be a mop-up session. It wouldn't be a reworking of tax legislation or the state budget. It was there to do some things fairly simply. And I think what's happened is, because in 99, 2000, 2001, you had huge surpluses, and then we ran into a decade of deficits, that everybody's gotten used to us reworking taxes and budgets every year. That was never the intent of the annual sessions. And so the fact that you're passing a $500 million tax decrease bill this year does not suggest that the bill is going to deal with everything. Next year, if the economy continues as it has been, if we continue with the projected surplus for the next biennium, the 16-17 biennium, which at this point is at $2.7 billion, I believe, 2.5 or 2.7 billion. Now, again, that's going to be reduced with the tax bill, but there still will be a healthy surplus projected. There could well be the opportunity to deal with some of these other ancillary but important tax issues.
Well, I would agree. I'm not on the tax committee, and I haven't seen this particular bill over on our side. And while it makes some sense, I really don't anticipate that we'll probably initiate our tax measures are going to be initiated in the House, but that those kind of things will be initiated this year. And growing up in history, watching history of the state, always grew up believing, yep, the odd year is going to be budget year and taxes, and the even year is going to be bonding. So.
Former mayors know about that because they really watch what we do in terms of state budget.
Well, that's right. You've got to keep an eye on
I was
things.
just going to comment, Senator Cohen is absolutely correct on the history of the constitutional amendment. That's very true, and that's why this session is going to be short and sweet.
Do you know what the projected departure date is? Anybody have a guess as to when that is? When?
I'm hoping tomorrow.
That might be optimistic.
I believe it's
or pessimistic, depending on your view.
May 20th, is that right?
Well, that would be roughly the constitutional, or it is the constitutional deadline.
It could be quicker then.
But if things fall, there are just not going to be that many things on the plate because it is the second year, and that was by design. We came in later than we usually do. We wanted to make sure before we came in that we had the most recent budget forecast, and of course that came out just as we were convening.
I think we heard some speculation last week that it might even be early May. Is that?
It could conceivably happen.
I'd like to get out before fishing season.
There you go.
Or before the ice league, whichever is first. So.
One thing I always keep in mind is that if we set an early date at the table here, or especially if it's the leadership, then you're held to that, even though constitutionally you don't necessarily need to adjourn by that date. So we'll meet our constitutional deadline. You're a judge, you understand that.
Yes, absolutely.
But I think that there's a high degree of probability to be much earlier than that. But it's sometimes your crystal ball gets a little cloudy.